guys, this is Jomar from Loading Incomplete. First and foremost, I do want to apologize. I have been on a pretty long hiatus and I was pretty sick and it kind of took its toll out on me. So my thing is it's still going around. I mean, flu, COVID. So be sure to mask up. Also too, there were some other things that did happen too that was also kind of affecting me posting videos, which was my recording equipment. Long story short, I was using my OnePlus 9 Pro, using Filmic Pro to record my videos and to kind of override the stock video software that comes with the OnePlus 9 Pro. And with that, I was also using Filmic Remote, which allows you to see exactly what you're recording. So kind of like when you have a camera and you have an external monitor and you're able to see what you're doing. It's the same thing with that. But unfortunately with most phones, you know, like if you're shooting 4K video for like an hour, the phone's gonna start to overheat and the quality is gonna suffer. So pretty much what happened was most of my videos just turned into a grainy mess. And for the most part, that was kind of discouraging. So what ended up happening is my wife, shout out to my wife, actually got me a new camera, which is the Sony ZV-1F for Christmas, and she allowed me to open it early. And without further ado, instead of this being an iPhone 14 Pro Max 1 month review, this is now turned into an iPhone 14 Pro Max 2 month review. So without further ado, let's go. So for the most part, you know, using this phone from an Android user's perspective, and I mean, like, I'm not super diehard, but for the most part, I have been, you know, off and on using Android phones and iPhones for like the last 4 years. And then with my first iPhone being I think it was the iPhone 4, that was back in like 2012. You know, for the most part, iOS kind of, you know, looks the same. So from a usage standpoint, you already kind of know what to expect from an iPhone. I don't know, like there's no negative things to really say about it, especially, you know, when it comes to like software and things like that. But for the most part, you know, like the last few iterations of iPhones, I think starting from like the iPhone 12, they've kind of shared the same design, and that's not, you know, it's not a bad thing. I love the flat edges, and most notably, I love the flat screen. I wish that a lot more Android manufacturers would actually put flat screens back on flagship phones. Don't get me wrong, sometimes the curved screens are nice, but for the most part, you know, having to buy screen protectors is a freaking hassle. And Whitestone Dome, they make some pretty good ones, but you know, for the most part, some people are probably scared to do that whole process. For me, I was, but now, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm like a pro at it. But, you know, having a flat screen protector and being able to buy one for $15 versus paying like $50 for a curved screen protector is nice. And then also too, just, you know, the case support for this phone, especially because it's so widely supported, is nice. Being able to kind of go on Amazon or go on like eBay or something and just pick out something is pretty nice to be able to do. And with this screen, you know, shout out to Samsung for making this, but this screen is pretty good. I would probably say that it is, I don't want to say it's the best one because I haven't used like every single phone out there, but you know, between this and the Pixel, I have no complaints with either one of them. But I do love it having a flat screen. And let's, you know, kind of talk about the elephant in the room. A lot of people have already kind of covered this, but the dynamic island, I initially thought that this thing was going to bother me, but for the most part, you know, from a usability standpoint, I've actually kind of found it useful with some things, like especially when I have like timers going, and also when I have like music going and things like that, being able to kind of switch back and forth between that, or just being able to interact with that is pretty nice. And I see that, you know, like some other software developers, they did do their own little thing with that, kind of did like their own spin and try to bring it to Android. And, you know, that's pretty nice, but I didn't take a chance and actually install that stuff. But for the most part, you know, if a lot more developers can kind of mess with this a little bit more, it could actually be something that could be like a staple in the iOS ecosystem. But I'm pretty sure, they're probably gonna switch it up next year, hopefully. But and then on to the software. So with iOS 16, not gonna lie, I don't know if you guys saw my reel, but I had some issues with my phone, and it does sound like some other people did too around the world, because there's a lot of people commenting on it. And I'm not gonna lie, like my phone would just like freeze up out of nowhere, or there'd be like weird little UI glitches that were pretty annoying. And it was pretty annoying if I was working on something, or if I was, playing a game or something and I had something weird just happen with the phone. That was annoying. And then Apple released some updates that actually helped to mitigate it. But I'm not gonna lie, I've actually had some other issues actually happen again. Kind of like the same thing, like with screen responsiveness, or something weird happened, like where my screen just kind of disappeared for a second, or it was showing me like half of the screen as if I tried to put it in one-handed mode, and I couldn't do anything. And I had to pretty much turn off, or I had to restart my phone, which was pretty annoying. But so far, after that initial incident, nothing has happened like that as of late. So I don't know if that was maybe just something that kind of happened after I updated it, but that was pretty annoying. So on the next topic is probably going to be the performance. And with that being said, with iPhones, you already know what you're expecting, or you know what you're getting with, especially with iOS, coupled with the A16 processor that's on here. It's the strongest, mobile processor that's out there on, not paper, but like on, from like an app or a benchmark standpoint. And yeah, I've never had any issues with it. I mean, the phone just pretty much blazes through everything. If you're, trying to convert like a video or anything like that, this phone is just going to kind of shred through it. Day-to-day tasks, same thing. Games, same thing. Not going to lie though, trying to set controls on a screen with the dynamic island is kind of annoying, but once you kind of get used to it, you're good. But from a performance standpoint, never had any issues. It's just been reliable and it's been solid. And one thing that's also been solid on this phone too as well is the battery life. And that's one thing that I wish that, some Android phones would be able to compete better with that. But I'm pretty sure that comes down to, iOS, RAM management, and then also to the processor. So, this phone, I've seen a lot of people saying that it has shorter battery life than the iPhone 13. I can't, compare that because I didn't have an iPhone 4 or 13. But for the most part, this phone can last, 2 days easily. There's been some nights, I get off from work, don't even have to plug it in. But I did want to point out though, I think after iOS 16, 1.1, I felt like my battery life kind of took a dip. So I don't know if maybe I might have installed something that might be using more battery or something like that. But for me personally, it seemed like it kind of dipped a little bit. So I don't know, maybe I need to go kind of check that out. But I actually haven't had the chance to. So, and with that, let's see, the cameras. So the main reason why I wanted to pick this one up, because I'm not gonna lie, like for the most part, I thought about not even like wanting to pick up this phone, just because of what was going on with the with my Pixel 6 Pro at the time. And, I just felt like some of these companies were kind of just rushing out the phones and doing some like crazy stuff. Like when I saw the whole thing that they were doing with like the lock screen with this, I had a weird feeling that there was going to be some issues with iOS. And the cameras though, when they mentioned that they're upgrading the cameras, that was the first thing I kind of jumped towards. I was like, oh, okay, finally, Apple's actually doing something to switch things up. And with that being said, don't get me wrong, these cameras, they're really good. But I think Apple made the wrong decision on actually upgrading the main photo or the main camera to 48 megapixels versus actually, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like they should have did it to the telephoto camera. I think that was an area where they probably should have focused on instead of the main lens, because the photos that came out of the main lens from even like the 13 series, they've always been consistent, they've been nice, they've been good. But for the most part, using this camera system, it's an iPhone, you kind of know what to kind of expect, and it's pretty consistent. My only gripe was mainly just the telephoto camera, because it feels like it hasn't really been touched. So, having 48 megapixels, being able to switch between that and actually being able to catch such high res, photos was pretty nice. Using that 2x zoom, that in between zoom between the telephoto camera and the main camera, and being able to just crop into that sensor to get a pretty much a 2x telephoto shot without actually having a telephoto zoom for 2x was pretty nice. However, there are some issues that I kind of noticed, or at least me personally, I felt like there were some issues with the video camera. I've been noticing some grain in some of my video. The video footage that I have right now doesn't have it, but I do have some from when we took my son out to Monterey for his birthday. I noticed that when the light was really dim, and maybe there might have been like some weird ambient lighting in the background, I noticed that the phone actually started warping, kind of like an Android phone, and that's something that I've never noticed on an iPhone before. But then again, I haven't been using like iPhones like that for the most part, but like when I had a 12 Pro Max, did not notice that. With this, I noticed that, and it looked like there were, like the people that I was recording, it looked like they were turning into ghosts, and that was kind of weird. But other than that, regular shots, not like challenging shots like that, because that was pretty challenging. If you've ever been to that aquarium, there's some pretty dark spots. Other than that, just really didn't have any other issues other than that. But I was trying to compare it to the Pixel, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was actually having some issues with that camera as well at that time. So, take it for what it's worth. I'm pretty sure they're gonna iron out the issues that are going on with both of these phones. But for the most part, this is Apple's first year using a relatively new camera system. So, we'll try to give them a chance. So with that being said, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a wonderful phone. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love using this phone. And I also love iOS now. For the longest time, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like diehard Android. Yeah, iOS does have its, quirks, especially on the larger displays, especially on, namely, this phone. But, with its shortcomings and with iOS 16, I found myself actually enjoying to use it. And in all honesty, I'm gonna be honest with you, it kind of seems, it reminds me of Android. So with that being said, if you're thinking about, upgrading to an iPhone 14 Pro Max, if you have a 13, it's probably not going to be worth it, I'm going to be honest with you, especially from what I've seen online from other reviewers. But if you have an older iPhone, or say if you're on Android and you've been kind of teeter-tottering between the OSs, the 14 series would probably be a good start point. So with that being said though, for me, I'm actually probably going to be switching back to my Pixel 7 Pro. And the only reason why is because I do enjoy having more flexibility with my cameras, and also too with Android just being able to do so many things, namely like the unblur feature, which is like a cheat code. Like, I could just go through my friends list on Instagram and pick out some of the pictures and just fix them, and they just kind of be messed up. Like, it's almost kind of like, it's a cheat code. You just be like, hey, I can fix your photos. How much is it going to cost? No, I'm just going to use my phone. So with that being said though, if you love iOS, and if you also love having pretty much a consistent camera, like, that's one thing that you can't take away from an iPhone. The cameras are reliable. So with that being said, like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. And until next time, this is Jomar from Loading Incomplete, and thank you. Take care, you guys.